This episode of the Rabid Hedgehog Motovlog is brought to you by The Store. Yes, Rabid Hedgehog's Teespring store. Check it out, buy gear, support the channel. Like, subscribe, comment below.
What's up, everybody? This is the Rabid Hedgehog, and we are going to be starting an exciting new thing when it comes to this channel. Usually, when I go out and do reviews, I'm just able to go to like a ride event or borrow a bike temporarily from a dealer and ride it around. But now, this week, I'm going to be borrowing a bike from a friend. That's right, we're going to be doing a full week-long review of a motorcycle. Let's go ahead and introduce that bike, and that way we can get started with this week. Obviously an air-cooled engine, definitely a single cylinder, and it is made by Suzuki. But if you got a sharp eye, you can already tell what it is over there on the VIN plate. That's right, it is the venerable TU250X, the retro throwback 250cc motorcycle. Also, a very awesome looking motorcycle indeed, as it is a very classically styled bike. Now, this bike does have around a 30-inch, almost 31-inch seat height, and as you can tell, it can hold a passenger. So this bike actually can do that, and I've actually done it a few times, and it doesn't seem to have any issues with it. Has long traveling suspension, nice and plush seating, and overall an awesome motorcycle. I reviewed this one back a couple of years ago and really liked it at that time. So for 1 week, we shall be taking this motorcycle out and having a good time with it.
Good Monday morning, everyone. So we're going to start the process of riding the TU250 as a commuter bike. And like I said, I am not one that believes in beginner bikes. I'm one that believes that there are bikes good for beginners. So the TU250 is one of those bikes that is both, though, to me. It is a commuter bike, for sure. Little 250, not going to be too powerful for the highway. Can still make it, though. I love this. I haven't even started it this morning. It's a balmy 33 degrees. First mission, get over and deliver some stuff to my wife before going on to work myself, since I work the closing shift. Alrighty. Love the fact that it's fuel injected. It just fires right up. Alright. Now, if you recall in my earlier review, I made a comment about the fit and finish of the bike being actually really well made for a bike in its price range, and I still believe that. I've actually rode this particular bike several times as I'm training a friend to ride. They definitely wanted help, so I would ride it to basically with a training site. They would drive, and then they would ride around in a nice controlled environment. So I've had a lot of time with this motorcycle. Idiot. Stupid moron. Good brakes, by the way. I know it wasn't going that fast, but as I've rode this bike, I am impressed with its braking, despite having the older style drum in the back. And this is a very broken road, as you can tell. And the suspension absorbs it really well. It does bottom out a little bit in the front. And you do get some dive under braking as well, but that's to be expected. Front forks aren't that thick. They're not that meaty, but the suspension is still overall very good. Overall very, very good. Let's see. So the handlebars on this thing are nice and compact. They're not wide bars by any means. Of course, it does help that this bike also has very skinny tires as well. And with those two in combination, I mean, usually you need those wider bars for leverage, but the combination of skinny tires and very narrow bars, I mean, if you just start going through and you're doing your push and pull, it's very simple to get through. Very easy to flick on this bike. I want to pass this dude. It's 45. Alrighty. Awesome. And it does get passing pretty decently on that little 2-lane road. Of course, it's only 45 through here. Now, unlike the last time I rode the little TU250, the mirror is not drooping. I already stabbed it with a 14mm. That way it would stay put, because that one was kind of droopy when we got it. So, I mean, it's just a common thing. My wife says 40 had a problem with the right mirror too, always coming loose from the vibrations and the way the bike, when it was running. I mean, that's just how it was. Once you got up to speed all the time and it got to vibrating, it would always vibrate that right mirror loose for some reason. I have no idea why, and it seems like this one does the same thing as well. When you look at the mirrors, you actually can see that the right side mirror is more jittery than the left whenever you're at speed. And that's kind of an interesting thing to notice, that it's just like that. It's probably the car behind me. It says I'm doing 25. But yeah, at 45, 50 miles an hour, this mirror considerably does jitter a lot more than the left side. Of course, this bike doesn't have a tachometer, so I have no idea what the revs are when it starts to do that. Right now at normal city speeds, this bike actually handles itself very well. I don't really feel any major vibrations or anything through the feet, nothing through the hands. Like I said, you can see a little bit getting in that mirror. You'll see a little jitter there, but that's to be expected. Now, the way this motorcycle fits me is that I do have to crouch down a little bit because I am 6 foot tall. So this bike is a little bit short for my frame, basically. So my knees do come to the tank and everything, but that's with the cost of me being slid up on pretty much the passenger seat. So that's kind of normal for me, though. I'm used to doing that on the Z125 because my knees don't fit into the little knee cup things that they have on that tank, because quite simply I'm way too big for that bike. But this one here is much more comfortable because the seat on it is not aggressive at all. It's a nice, soft, and broad seat for such a small motorcycle. And accelerating on this bike actually is really good as well through the city, as it gets up to speed just fine and holds it very well. The fueling on the little 249 or 250, however you want to put it, is very good. I mean, whenever you turn the throttle, it is cable operated still, but as soon as you pull it, it automatically gets going. I mean, it's very quick on its response time. There's no lag in between it, so the fueling is very good. I don't feel any weird hesitation or anything, even if I pour it on. It just keeps on going. Now, when you pour it on, it's not going to just fly on you because it is just a 250. But it does it very well. It just rides very clean. kind of see my dirt days as I stood up to go over that versus just sitting down. Yeah, the peg placement is directly below you. I mean, that's what you got. Pedal box, as you can see, is not big. So if I'm on it, my whole foot, being as big as it is, pretty much covers everything. So I have to kind of ride. If you can see my shadow, you can see my feet are kicked way out. But I'm kind of used to that. A lot of people do not have a size 14, 15 boot that's going to be on a motorcycle. So for me, I do pay attention to pedal box area because of the fact that it does affect how I ride. Now the pegs themselves where my feet are resting are very big fat things. If you look down there, I mean they are massive, but they're coated in rubber, which is nice because it helps pretty much negate any vibration coming from the engine area. And this little 250 is more than confident. I mean, it definitely has decent pull for city traffic. And I'll take it on the highway later and show you guys what it can do on the highway. I mean, I'm impressed with the little bike. Alrighty. Well, that ends a long day at work. Back on the little TU. Alright. It has warmed up considerably from this morning. It was 31 degrees this morning, 31 to 33, somewhere in there, depending on where you were in the metro area of Oklahoma City. And now it's almost 70 degrees on this April 16th evening. So as promised, we are going to run down the interstate this evening. This little bike is so fun to flick around. Alrighty. The official color of Oklahoma, everybody. Traffic work orange. Can almost reach 70 in fourth gear. Almost. Yep, definitely in top gear now. Hey, Harley waved at me on the sunny thing. Look at that. This bike actually will do quite well on the interstate. As you can see, an indicated 80 miles an hour. No, I'm not really keeping with traffic, but, you know. See? But not bad for such a little dude. That's all I want to do is try to keep with traffic because you never know. Now at highway speeds, you have about that much throttle left over, and as you can see, I'm losing speed on this hill. Now it's kind of maintaining, so it's doing all right. But it's holding up rather well. What a difference a day makes going into day 2 of the riding of the TU250. Yesterday, freezing temperatures at 31 degrees starting out. Today, it's 65. Big difference, though, is today we will have a 35 to 40 mile an hour headwind heading in to work today. And also work will be a little bit different getting to because I don't have to do the whole travel and deliver thing today. Which you can use this as a courier bike along with a commuter as well. So kind of a brief overview regarding the TU from yesterday. This bike is really meant for commuting. It is not necessarily a big bike that can handle the interstate all day long, but it actually can get up to that speed and hold it very confidently. despite just being a little 250 single. A lot of the other bikes that are around this class, you know, you have the Ninja 300, Ninja 400 series now that are much bigger displacement and double cylinder that can ride better than this bike on the interstate for sure. Because, I mean, let's face it, the Ninja 300's top speed is actually around 115. I mean, it takes you a little bit to get there, but you'll get there. This one's top speed, maybe 85, maybe. And that's saying that somebody lighter than me with a tailwind is riding it. Not saying that it's something that just anybody can jump onto and do. So, here's the first shot I'm going to get at how that wind actually feels now. So as you can see, going up that long on-ramp, it still needs a little bit of time to get up to 70, which is the speed here on the interstate. Of course, I am going into, like I said, a 35 to 40 mile an hour headwind. That's what I was kind of curious about as to how this bike would feel. Now I'm shifting into 5th gear, actually. I was in 4th. And that didn't help anything. I actually dropped in speed there. Kind of tucking in a little bit to get my body out of the wind. Definitely feel it more. Ah, here we go, a semi-truck. Let's see how that blows me around here. So you'd be surprised how much draft comes off of those even when they're passing you. Oh, it's a lot of turbulence. Well, it slowed me way down just from turbulence alone. Like I said, there's more wind pushing than I thought. Of course, now that he's in front of me, he took the wind away, and here we go. Look at the speed climb. Got a downhill too that's helping. But that's about all I'm going to get. I'm not going to try to pass him or anything. There's no point, because I'll just be able to get by me again on the next area. Boy, the turbulence, though, moves this little bike. It weighs only 326 pounds, as I stated yesterday, when fully in riding condition. And that means a full tank of gas. Of course, I'm at 106.4 on this particular tank. Not all I've done. It was actually rode before I picked it up. So I went ahead and just took it with what it had to see where it would fill up at, basically. Because I didn't know if I could get all the way to the point where it's begging for fuel with the fuel light. And since driving every day, that's going to be something you face. I'd rather do that, and then I'll fill it up and then let you know about where the combined mileage was. Yeah, unlike yesterday, on the way to the house, this doesn't seem to be getting as good of speed, but yesterday I had more of a tailwind, and I think wind's only 20 miles an hour, so about half the speed of today. Actually, that flag is whipping really good, so we might be at that wind, or at least in the 20s again, but this time going straight into it. But don't be afraid to take this out on the interstate. It will do it. Most interstates within cities only have a limit of 60 to 65 anyway. It's just that where I live at, we have a 70 stretch, and then once you get over past Wilshire Boulevard up here, which is still several miles away, then you enter the interior of Oklahoma City, and they drop you to 60 there. And you stay 60 all the way to just on the other side of Moore, basically, where you jump to 70 for a moment, then drop back to 60 to enter Norman, with an interesting 65 in between the two of Oklahoma City and Moore, basically. That's about the extent of it. But it will confidently hold the speed. You don't have to feel like you're being drug around. I mean, you can see the rain gullies in the concrete there. And these tiny tires do pick them up, but it's very easy to negate. So that's good news. Engine braking is very good on this bike. Usually singles can be a hit or miss, but usually I'm finding that the smaller singles have a little bit better. This little thing can turn too. It's so fun. Alrighty, that takes us through day 2. Of the morning ride. Alrighty, so we're at the end of day 2. And let's be honest, not a lot of people do this part. What's it like at night? Because some people who ride every day don't just ride in the day. They actually ride at night. So let's play around here and see how the little headlight is. See if it lights up the night pretty decently. Now, I will say this. When it comes to the gauge, you could tell it's not an LED. It's an old classic light bulb. You cannot even barely see the bottom end of it. You can barely see the 0 and the 90. I mean, you can see it, but you can tell that it's not very well lit. But it's not really a big deal. You're not really going to be doing 0 very often, and well, you're not really going to be doing 90 either. Yeah, I still can't believe the way this little thing accelerates. I mean, it does very well on city streets. You have breakaway speed from traffic. You're able to get places. I mean, it's not the fastest getting on the interstate, especially with that big old freaking headwind we had this morning. Of course, we got a pretty good tailwind right now. I'm going back to the north. But it's just surprising how well it does for city life. I mean, if you're going to use this to bounce around places in the city, go run some errands, as long as you got a backpack to throw on yourself, or maybe a throw over saddlebag set, this little thing is perfect for doing just about anything you're looking to do. It's just great for around town. I mean, it just outdoes that little XT I had. I mean, that XT in the first 3 gears, like I said, pulled just fine. You get to that 4th, 5th gear, and it just more or less got very lazy at that point. But this one, quite a bit better for the road use. Of course, that's what it's designed for, too. Yeah, so far so good on the night riding. Oh wow, that's really good. That's impressive. Look at that. Hopefully the GoPro does that justice. I'm just surprised at how comfortable such a small bike is, even for me and my size. It's just perfect for what I'm doing. Of course, I need to take it out for a little bit longer ride to help you guys understand if it does get pretty buzzy and you get that pins and needles kind of thing. So that way, if you have a longer commute, we can definitely find out about that, because on the interstate this thing does get pretty buzzy. That's for dang sure. But at speeds like this, you really don't feel that the engine is buzzing that much at all. I mean, you got to get in the higher RPMs when you're accelerating out to finally feel something in your feet. But once you're up in the gears and you're just kind of in the cruising mode, it's just a nice little engine. Well, here we are, day 3. Late start to the day. work Saturday, so they're offsetting time for me. So I am coming in on the later shift. It is a different day. Yesterday was 87. Hot, sticky, nasty. Today, 60s. Another drastic change. Maybe getting into the 70s by later this afternoon. But it's already afternoon. So, yeah. Anyway, wind is very high again today. But today I decided to take it down. We're going to be taking it down the more back road approach to the job instead of going straight down the interstate, which is the easy way. You know, I noticed something about this bike that I haven't noticed before, is that the engine on this particular bike is a stress member of the frame. Don't know why I didn't notice that until today, but that is very interesting for a bike that's, you know, this small and this cheap. That helps explain the rigidity and the way it feels. I'm surprised you really don't feel any more vibration than you do since it's a stress member and it's a single. You know, the nice thing, the way the surfaces are on this bike, that does have chrome in places. You can see the ring up there and the arms of the mirrors and everything, but it doesn't reflect back into your face when you got the sun right behind you. That's very nice to note. Now, this kind of road is the absolute perfect blend for this motorcycle. It's a bit faster. Of course, it's only a 45 speed limit, but anywhere, a road that is 45 to 55 is absolutely perfect for this motorcycle. Because that's where it operates the best. It seems to be in its power band the best there. It seems to just be able to handle that speed the best. You're not trying to gun it too much like you would on the interstate. It's just there. It's in a good spot. So if you live out away from the city and you have a back road that's 55 into the back end like we do, we have 45, we have a road over here, Broadway, that's 50. If you go out onto Highway 74 to go back down to Oklahoma City, it's 70, or it's 55. Then it goes into 70 miles an hour. But if you take it just to Memorial Road and then cut over to wherever you're going, and that's what this bike is perfectly suited for. It's just perfect to go running around the interiors of the city or coming down these back roads that are long stretches, but still at a decent clip. There we go, proof that you can get a wave out of a Harley CVO rider. Booyah! Kidding. That was a fun kickback of wind. Definitely felt the motorcycle. Whoa, 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 this road. That's kind of fun. That's the only thing right there, is if you're on a bumpy road like that, that's a concrete road that's broken, so you get that seesaw effect. The suspension does not do well on the seesaw effect. It just kind of on you. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty plush all the way around when it comes to like regular potholes, regular things on the road. And that was the more back roads approach, and as you can tell, this bike can do it just fine. Now the nice thing about this bike is it comes with a helmet lock as well on the side, so if you need to lock the bike down, or the helmet down, you can actually unlock that on the side and hook it up and you're good to go. So at any rate, we'll catch you on the evening ride. So here we are, day 4. Apologize for not having the day 3 coming home video because of some medical problems. Still hurting me today, but not as bad. So I'm going to go ahead and ride in today again. But yeah, yesterday afternoon, I pulled a muscle or something caused a spasm in my neck, shoulder area of my left arm. And it was really painful. You know, not a heart attack or anything crazy. We know that, but it was just something there. My whole arm seemed to lock up for no particular reason and really hurt. But it has worked out quite a bit this morning. I think I just pulled something or tweaked it, or, you know, something that can be corrected with just giving it rest, but this doesn't do too much to it, which is good. And if you notice, I'm back in winter gear on this April 19th. You stay there, buddy. You're doing good. Excellent. Don't chase bikes. It's bad for your health. So, here we are in the 40s this morning. Yesterday in the 60s, 60s. Just never ceases to amaze me how quick everything changes around here. But today, for the first time in feels like over a week, we actually have no wind. Which, oh my goodness gracious, no wind. That never happens in Oklahoma. So I'm happy to report that we don't have much problems today. Now yesterday we had the cold front come through, and it was causing some difficulties riding earlier in the day, but like I said, I kind of didn't do anything later that day because of the arm. So at any rate, this bike is a cold-natured bike. The other day when we got up near 90, I noticed that it really was kind of not liking it as much. Now, it does have a tendency that if it's still cold when you take off in the morning and you get up to a stop sign, you can pull the clutch in while you're moving, and when the bike goes to idle back down, it'll actually go too far and actually stall. So that's if the bike is super cold. And we're not that cold today. We were the other day when we started out. But when it's warm, it feels like it's missing something. Like it seems to vibrate a little bit more. It seems to not have as much pull. It doesn't seem to be as happy. Of course, most air-cooled bikes like cooler air anyway. And I noticed that for the most part, 68 degrees, somewhere in there, is the best combination of how much heat and how much cold an air-cooled engine needs to basically run at its peak efficiency. And this one's really feels like it's kind of no different. You get into that hotter climate and you have to go through stop and go traffic, and it gets a little angry. Let's see without the wind if I can get up to the speed this time. Of course, I have a car in front of me, so it kind of slowed me down a smidge. Hey, I got up to 70 on the ramp this time. Look at that. The other day, remember, I couldn't do it because of the headwind. Now see it climbing. Much easier today. Already in top gear. I don't know why I was thinking 6th gear. You know, it's a 5-speed. See, there's your proof from the other day when we had all the winds. I said that it was windy. It didn't look windy in the video, but I promise you as the rider, we could feel it. And now today, we're going back that same path, and we're actually able to stay above 70 without an issue. So, there you go. Glad that we could do that in 1 week to prove that. Oh, the fuel light finally came on. 146.3. Yep, definitely on. So there you go. Been waiting for that thing to come on. So we'll fill it with gas. We'll do a... and we'll do some calculations, see what kind of mileage she was getting at that point. Because it was definitely mixed riding. Not strictly interstate, not strictly city. And there you go. You can even pass some people on the interstate. Not very easily, but pretty much recommend you stay in the right lane. I still love it, man. I just can't find anything to hate about the stupid thing yet. It's just a fun little bike all around. It's a happy bike. I like happy bikes. Alrighty, well, as you see, just now leaving the fuel station, we went 148.3 miles before needing a tank of fuel, and we put in 2.297, so just about a gallon was left when the light came on. That's a pretty generous fuel light there. Alright everybody, it is day 5 with the TU250, and now we are going to be rambling on a state highway 2-laner outside of town. That way you guys can also see some actual handling, because where I'm going is one of the only places in this area that can actually show turning ability of a motorcycle. Alrighty, so when I first introduced the fact that I was heading down this way to start going through the turns and stuff, that was almost 30 miles ago. So that's why I was just like, I'm going to cut this off and take the straight road here. And we're going to take Highway 77 to the north. I do admit I am feeling the buzz after being on it for basically about 45 minutes now, almost an hour, since I had to cut through city traffic and everything to get here. So because it takes so much time to get up here, I had to sit on it for a little bit. But the thing is, like where I'm sitting at, I'm actually very comfortable still. It actually is a very good motorcycle in terms of that respect. And look at this thing. I mean, this thing has a really good lean angle both directions, so you actually can get some heck of turns out of it. And it's, like I said, the chassis is amazing. The only thing that it really suffers from is the super skinny tires. I mean, I understand that they do help with the, flickability of the motorcycle, but for the stability, they don't help. And that's the only thing I can complain about, is that you do feel a little bit of a warble from those skinnier tires in tighter turns than you would, say, a regular sport bike like a 600RR, which still has thinner wheels, but they're still wider than these because they're designed to be that fine balance of precision and flickability, basically, so that way you can stick turns. But I mean, this bike is absolutely a blast to take around out here, because it leans in very well. Like I said, I do have a little bit of a warble in it. And I'm at full throttle, by the way. I mean, literally, look, I'm not moving. So I've got a lot of north wind right now coming into me. And that's why I'm fighting the wind a little bit too. So that could be a part of the warble that I'm feeling. I know it's called wobble, but I say warble because it's a little bit different than a wobble. This bike is fantastic, as you can see through that. Absolute blast to ride. Now the thing is, you got these private drives and roads, but you got to be careful that you don't get target fixated on, or you're going to miss this and get very, very hurt. Like I said, you can see there's a lot of gravel on the road there, so I did a scouting mission so I knew where I could turn in at and not really worry as much. As you can see, quite a nice little turn there, and very fun to mess with. Just like I said, this little bike is fantastic. You just don't expect something this cheap and this small to be this fun, especially on a long-range trip now. You saw me earlier saying I was about 30 miles or so from the beginning over there when I started that video, and now I've gone even further. I'm in the 70s of miles, so that means I've approached over 40 miles away, and I'm going to keep on adding. Like I said, I am definitely feeling the vibration in my hands and my feet now, so they are little pins and needles if I do a little tap down on the pegs and everything, or tap everything, but they're still movable. And to be honest, because the way this bike is designed with these mid mounts, I'm able to stretch out on this a little bit and kind of work around on the bike And that way I'm a little bit comfortable. So just downshift it, dive it in, look through, look through, look through, look through, and there you go. Such a fun motorcycle. See, you can actually stand up on it just fine like a dirt bike. That's what I like. I like this kind of setup. So that way if you need to stretch out, you can. But really, I'm actually pretty dang comfortable. This seat, for me, a big guy, actually has enough padding. It's actually surprising. But yeah, this bike is just a great motorcycle. Absolutely a blast to ride. And definitely a bike that after a week I have fallen more in love with. But I will admit, for somebody my size, I might spring for an SR400. A bike that I desperately want to do this with as well. Because you got to learn to live with that Kickstarter every day. And see if you can deal with it every day. You know, can you handle the Kickstarter and actually enjoy it? I know some people that can't, but I want to try desperately so much. Yamaha, if you're listening, send me an SR400. I'll take it and I'll love it for sure. I'll own it forever too if you give me the option. Because I want a bike like this that I can have some fun with and actually enjoy riding around in a condition like this where it can be my city commuter, but if I want to get out for a little bit, it has the power and the ability to do it. And this one suits it very well, maybe for somebody that's not quite my size. But my friend that owns it, she's really not that big at all. Only 5'2", 5'3", somewhere in there. And that's about it. She's not very tall. And this is perfect for her because it doesn't even know she's there. So with her on it, she can go much quicker. She'll be more comfortable. But I've got the suspension set for me. I actually did the preload for this. And like I said, it's got very good suspension despite the narrow forks and the narrow frame. I mean, it's just great. Well, after extremely rainy day 6, it is now day 7, and the final goodbye to the TU250X. So one full week, one nice long over 100-mile trip on it just to check to see what it could do for long-range chops. And I have to say that for a little bike, it's been a fantastic ride. It is definitely a bike I would recommend to anybody looking for just a basic commuter to get around the city, to get around some of the outer skirts of town, and definitely to have some fun with. This bike can fill the need for all of it. It may not be the fastest on the interstate, it may not be the fastest in any condition, especially in the 250 class. I mean, it's not the fastest 250 there is, but it has been a good motorcycle. Extremely competent, great handling, very comfortable, easy to ride, easy to approach, very simplistic, just a good old-fashioned two-wheel motoring machine. And I did fill this bike up actually, and it saw around 67 miles per gallon in mixed riding. So after 147.8 miles, most of that with my rear on it, the heavier person, it really did get pretty decent, good, dang mileage. You know, 67 miles per gallon is not bad. Not bad at all. And it is a 3.2 gallon gas tank. When I filled it up, it put in about 2.2, somewhere in there. A little bit over 2.2 gallons, but not too much over that. And like I said, that's a pretty good leeway on that light, depending on how what the usable portion of the tank is. So as long as it's still able to pump the gas, get you pretty close to that 3.2, you almost have a gallon left, which means around 60 miles or so that you could possibly go. I still don't recommend that, But if you're a commuting bike and you see that light turn on, you don't need to worry about immediately finding a gas station. You can keep on commuting a little longer, maybe add an extra day, depending on how far your commute is. So, conclusions, and all conclusions. If you're looking for the perfect commuter bike, and you're not looking for anything that really needs interstate speeds, but can obtain them if needed, the TU250 is the absolute perfect blend of city motorcycle and all-arounder. If you do need to get a little bit further away. If you're going to use the back highways, it has enough power to perform passes. I actually had to pull one off. It was not on camera, unfortunately, but I actually did a double pass and was capable of doing it. They were doing around 50 to 55. I was able to pass them at the full 65 without an issue, and actually get both of them in the same passing lane. So that was surprising, and I dropped one gear to do it. So it's able to hold highway speed in 4th gear, long enough to allow you to get going and get passing. So that's a great news about it, like I said, if you need it for that kind of purpose. But also, if you're just running to the grocery store, if you're running to your work, if you're running down to your friends, or if you're just going to have a good time somewhat outside of town, I can't think of a better bike right now to do that with, because I would buy this one. Like I said, I might want a little bit more power because of where I live at, but if I live closer in town, I'd definitely have one of these in my garage. So at any rate, this is the Rabid Hedgehog after 1 week of the TU250X.